Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates. And today we're going to have a look at the possibility of a sudden stratospheric warming at both the Arctic in the next few weeks, along with the chances of some substantial, and I mean substantial cold conditions for the next couple of weeks, sort of Boxing Day, 27th of December beyond. So first we'll have a look at the stratosphere, and as you can see here, this is for 30th of December, and we start to have a significant warming coming up from Siberia, attacking the polar vortex. And as we run through, you can start to see the polar vortex get stretched, it gets elongated out, and the temperature decreases in the center. And by the end of the run, it's starting to stretch, and you can see it's starting to split, and a major sudden stratospheric warming is taking place. Now you can see it's not as such getting very warm temperatures into the Arctic, but it's putting enough strain that it does split the polar vortex, so we do get the same sort of effects from it. Now, in this current run, it doesn't quite split. However, we have seen in runs from yesterday that did split by 384 hours. So it's looking like at the moment that it's going to be happening in the longer range, so early January, and we'll have probably exact timeline on it within the next maybe 3, 4, 5 days. So that's something very interesting to see what's going to happen with that. Now that normally causes quite a significant amount of northern blocking that can bring some very cold conditions to the UK. Of course, the beast from the east, January, February, March 2013, snowy conditions were caused by a sudden stratospheric warming, the similar timeline that we're getting now. So something to keep an eye on for later this winter, so probably end of January or second half of January, February, that's where we're going to maybe see the effects of this. However, currently we are seeing quite a lot of northern blocking just as a general weather pattern, with no apparent cause from any sudden stratospheric warming or anything. So we'll have a look at the GFS run, and you can see right now there's not too much blocking. However, as we go beyond Christmas, we do set up quite a big Greenland / Mid-Atlantic ridge, and you can see this Atlantic ridge here heads across the UK, bringing cold northerly winds briefly over Christmas, and we thought this could set up a cold spell. However, this sort of downgraded in the last week or so, just to bring some colder air through for a couple of days over Christmas. So it's going to be quite a seasonal Christmas. We'll have a forecast on that nearer the time, as it's going to be quite cold, quite chilly, and there is a chance of a few wintry showers here, and we'll look at that in the next couple of days as we get near the time to pinpoint all those exact details. But as we head through, you see that high pressure sort of topples over, but you see another area of high pressure builds back behind. Normally you'd expect this to be a low pressure, ready to topple this Atlantic ridge, but this builds up towards Greenland. This high pressure sort of retrogresses into that area of high pressure. It sort of binds together, heads up towards Greenland, and we start to get a lobe of the tropospheric polar vortex sort of sink down through the UK. Now, it hasn't got bitterly cold air in it just because of the time of year, its exact position, and the fact that it's heading on a track that goes across quite a lot of the ocean, so it does warm up quite significantly. But it's going to have very low thickness, low dew points, and reasonably cold air within it. So anything really falling out of the sky within this could be snow over the higher ground, probably mostly snow. Over the lower ground, again, it depends on exact conditions and more details as we get near the time. But see, by Sunday the 27th, quite stormy, but quite cold. And if we have a look at the upper air's conditions, you'll see quite cold, -5 temperature wrapping around that. And you see just subtle changes in the position of this low pressure would bring more of a northerly wind out, so more of this cold air would get down. So that's something we've got to keep an eye on really as we get into more shorter range. But as we move through, this low pressure stays here. The Mid-Atlantic ridge going up sort of a Greenland block stays strong really, and we start to continue pulling down colder air. We can sort of get a reinforcement of the northerlies with this area of low pressure moving down, and you can see we stay quite cold, and this area of high pressure in the Atlantic remains blocking out any low pressure trying to topple it. And we start to pull in sort of a northeasterly, and we get another area of low pressure diving through Iceland, which could bring a snow event there. The high pressure does lose a bit of its strength. However, it sort of moves towards Scandinavia, gets another reinforcement from the Mid-Atlantic, and we start to put in a bitterly cold easterly winds by the end of the run. Now if you have a look at the upper airs, quite cold conditions. You can see even more colder air ready to wrap around. Coming off the continent, it's going to be cold and potentially quite snowy. So a sustained cold spell setting up on this GFS operational run is something we've been seeing quite often on the last few runs, and I'll show you the ensembles at the end of the video and we can see how it's backed up. If we now look at the ECMWF, you can see a similar pattern for Christmas Day, and you see that area of low pressure does plunge across the UK, and in this run it's further east, and that allows colder air to dig down. Now on this ECMWF one, it doesn't have as much cold air as the GFS does, therefore the cold air doesn't quite sink as far south. But if this was a GFS one, we'd see -5 widely over the UK, maybe even getting down to -7, -8, and even -10 towards northern Scotland, which would be bitterly cold. Now, as we move through, we get a feature that runs and sort of develops in the Atlantic, and you can see that wrapped in cold air. And unfortunately, we only have 24-hour intervals on this, but I'd suspect that run through the centre of the UK and strengthen as it gets towards France, and that could be a major snow event as it deepens with very strong winds, with bitterly cold air digging in behind it and in front of it. Could be a major snow event with that, so that's something to keep an eye on. And again, that's only just over a week away. So very interesting model ones we're seeing. One thing I will say at the moment is we're quite likely that most areas in the UK will see some form of wintry precipitation over the next 2 weeks. That's something I'm quite confident in saying. Whether it will be substantial, I don't know. I'd say definitely over the hills at the moment, and further north. Further south, it's likely we're going to see some falling snow, and you can see that with the ensembles that I'm going to be pulling up right now. And we're here on the ensembles, and we'll look at the 6 o'clock of our latest run. This is for London as well. But I think we could be seeing quite a lot of snow around and wintry precipitation. Now, if we have a look at the London, you can see the dip for Christmas Day. Quite cold conditions, and there are some precipitation spikes with that drop as the area of low pressure that moved through. There are a couple of spikes here which are falling potentially as snow, and I'll show you the snow chart in a minute. Beyond that, it remains fairly unsettled with cold air in place, so there is still quite a substantial chance of some snowfall. If we have a look at the 2 meter temperatures, you can see quite if you got 850 HPA, it's -5, which is sort of the parameter for snow. Temperature, 2 meter temperatures around 3 or 4 degrees the high in London. Again, probably with shorter range models, could be colder. Clearer skies would be colder at night, hard overnight frost potentially. Generally, I'd say that the GFS normally does the temperature, overdoes the temperature maybe by a degree or two, so we could be seeing days where we only get 2 or 3 degrees in the day, and if any precipitation falls out of the sky, it could be even lower. And that's quite sustained for a good 4, 5, 6 days. And towards the end of the run, it does lift up, but again, there is still quite a strong signal in the 850 HPA temperatures of remaining below average. You can see just a few outliers, maybe 4 or 5, 6 outliers going above, bringing up that temperature, just reaching average by the end. Now, if we have a look at the dew points, you can see the dew points are around freezing for most of it, and we have many going below freezing, many going maybe just above freezing. So again, that's something we have to watch out for the snow, for any potential of snow. But if we have a look at the snow image, you can see there's a few chances of a few flurries Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. So that's something we're going to look at later. Beyond that, maybe a snow event on the 28th. Which is when that low pressure moved through. Showers behind that could be turning to snow, that back edge could be turning to snow. That's something you have to keep an eye on at the moment, and it's going to be quite marginal whatever happens in the next week. Beyond that, we could be reinforcing the cold air, so it could be more clear-cut snow, but initially it looks like it's going to be quite marginal. Beyond that, quite a strong snow signal, especially for London. This is quite a strong snow signal, even though it doesn't look like it is quite a strong snow signal, with many different colours showing many different ensemble members are seeing the chance of snow falling. So it's very interesting conditions coming up, and as I say, it's not locked in that we're going to definitely be seeing some very cold conditions. Not locked in we're going to be seeing some substantial snow, but the current synoptic pattern is looking like even if this doesn't pull off substantial snow in the future, combined with the sudden stratospheric warming, we could be setting up quite a cold January to come. It could be, and I reiterate, could be the coldest spell of weather we've had for a few, at least since the Beast in the East. And again, the Beast in the East only lasts about 5-6 days. Beyond that, we'd have to go back many years to get very cold, sustained conditions. I suspect this could be one of the coldest patches we've had for many, many years. We'll just have to see exactly what happens. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, subscribing, and I'll see you again for another video.